Yeah, I don't know when they added that. I think less than a year ago, but it's always so weird.
Yeah, with the little voice talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of jarring. It's got an uncanny voice. Anyway, so tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and I'll set you up. You're a really great photographer. I love your work.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I really love the Dr. Seuss look and like the contrast and the colors. You're great with like also like technical flares too. I like how you use like little like glimmers in certain shots, you know.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I put a lot of thought into all that stuff. So I appreciate that. So yeah, you want me to just start from who I am and what I do? Is that what you like? Okay. Yeah. So my name's Raul Gonzo, and I'm a conceptual photographer / director. I mostly do conceptual fashion photography and conceptual, I guess, music videos. And music videos, I don't think we usually say conceptual because they're just, music videos just have to be kind of all over the place. Yeah, and I guess I'm mostly known for having very sort of quirky ideas and block colors, bright, vivid, toxic colors. That's kind of my signature style now. So
yeah. Also love the Feely Feelings book. Shout that out.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I did write a children's book, and then I hope to write more. I've been working on a couple others, but haven't had as much time. And yeah, Feely Feelings is a book for all ages on what emotions are. And as an adult, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm feeling a little flabbergasted at the, so yeah. And so yeah, I do a lot of stuff related to, I guess, art and that in that sense. I do like to draw and write stories and other things. The only thing I feel like I can't do that's in the art field that I wish I could do is play music. I love music. Yeah, I can't play anything. And I've tried to learn. I tried, and you know what? I love that, but I think because the dedication it takes for someone who doesn't have a natural ability it takes so much work, and I would rather put that into photography and music videos or but like I feel like I could dedicate my life to learning to play the piano or something, which is, I feel like, is just the way it's all laid out. I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, do you play something?
Yeah, I actually play a lot of instruments, and
That's great.
But
that's amazing. I'm jealous. Yeah.
No, it's okay. Like I think anyone could do it. That's like my belief about it, just because I go at it from like a pretty intuitive standpoint. It's just like banging,
Yeah. Yeah. I can't keep a beat for very long. I think I get in my own head once I could do it, and then once I start thinking about it, I lose it. So it's fascinating though. I think that it's really fascinating. And I also feel like when I was trying to learn to play the guitar, but I was trying to learn to play like Radiohead songs when I first started, trying to learn to play like Johnny Greenwood's like solos and his intricate. And I'm like, this is too hard. So like rhythm guitars. Yeah.
You should just start with Tom York's chords.
That's what I ended up doing. Yeah. But it was very discouraging to try to learn to play some of the more complicated things that I wanted to learn how to do. But anyways.
So I actually do have a bit of questions here.
Yeah, let's hear them.
So I tried to research you a bit, and I found your website very nice. Good web design.
Thanks.
Did you go to college? I couldn't find anything about your education.
Yeah, I don't talk about it like anywhere online. I don't think so. I did like go to a JC where I live for several years, and I ended up just taking mass communication classes and no core classes. So I never got a degree because I was just like only taking electives. everything to do with photography and filmmaking. So like studio television, editing classes, mass writing. And then I took an English lit class because that was, I wanted to be able to write things. So yeah. And then as I was doing that, I got an internship at a local television station, a news station.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, it was actually really great. I think even though I wanted to be a filmmaker, I think being in anything that has to do with cameras just made me feel very happy. And you're still learning about production and how you put things together. So I did that for a little while. I was the cameraman, and yeah, so it put me into a field, and I just started getting more and more jobs on set as a production assistant. So bottom of the barrel right there. I did that for many years starting out, and I got my own camera. I was also shooting my own projects on the side for school. So yeah, and then after 3 years, I was just so busy working that I just was like, that's enough. But I do see the value when I meet people who have gone to film school. They're heavily in debt, but they have so much knowledge, so they teach me things all the time that are way like safer and faster. And like when I hear DPs who have gone to film school and they talk about the like angle of view and all the like technical stuff, that I'm like, oh wow, I don't care about that at all. It's very interesting, but I wish I knew it, but I'm like, that's we film school knowledge there, that yeah. But
that's awesome. Did you know I went to film school?
How are you in debt?
Well, actually, no, I'm actually, it's narrowing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good with
Really?
money. Yeah.
Good. That's great.
And also my family's like, they like are financial advisors, so they know like the thing.
They know how to, they knew how to do it. That's great. What
raised to know that.
See, but not
it's
everyone
like the
has
best
that.
stuff to know.
Yeah.
About it, like vital. Like
and anything you're going into in life, if you can approach it with some kind of financial wisdom and intelligence, I think you can come out better at. So are you done, or are you still in it?
I'm done. Sorry, I was being very vague about that. I just like had an automatic response.
What did you study in film school? What were you learning to do?
I studied directing. I really wanted there to be a producing major, but there wasn't.
Sure.
Which is fine,
Yeah.
And I just made my first feature. So that was like,
congratulations.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
But I'm here to promote you, so I gotta talk about myself less.
All right. Yeah.
But because also you were going off on a really good rant and like answering all my questions too.
Was I?
Yeah, you were, because like you were giving me a pretty solid step-by-step of like what it looked like for you to like get where you are now. Because I was actually wondering like, how did you get to this place of like, being able to shoot? Because I talked to you earlier on Instagram, about how you did your photos, and it was like, do you like rent a place? Like, what's up? Like, do you paint these studios? And you said, yeah.
Okay. So, it took a while to discover what my specific like signature look was, that I'm like very happy with, right? So that took a long time, and people are always like, find your voice. That's the hardest thing to do. But once I did, I became very obsessed with it, and I didn't have my own place to do that. So I would have to, I had friends who had sort of a studio space that I had worked with before, and they very generously would let me go into they had a very small, like in the back of where their offices were, they had a very small space that I think now they use as a garage. But they let me there for about a year. And then, I guess since then I got my own, I wouldn't say my own studio space, but I got a studio space that I share with like 6 or 7 other tenants. And it's a big studio. I have a you know, I have my own sort of like space to be in, but I
I've been to
share it
one of
with
those.
others.
Those are
Yeah,
cool.
it's great. I mean, because it's hard to pay for a space that's that big, and
Yeah.
you know, when it's just on your own. So
Well, you can
I'm
collab a bit too. Like I assume you
it's
talk
true.
to the other artists that you share the space with, right?
Yeah. So the other people who share the space are into they're into production too, but we're all into different things. So there's a fabricator there. His sole thing is just making props. And there are other people, like there's a photographer. So there's all kinds of different types of people that and they don't do like fashion. I think they do more commercial stuff. And
You guys like trade services ever? Like
not usually. Like sometimes if they need a DP for a commercial shoot, they might, you know, or we recommend each other for things, you know,
okay.
because someone comes to me if they say they need to shoot a wedding. I don't do that. So I
Okay.
don't do that, but I can recommend this other person. So yeah, so that can happen. But I think generally we're all kind of doing our own thing and we just kind of see each other. So, you know, I will hire like the fabricator when he's not busy to make stuff for my music videos, you know. I'll be like, he's so good. So I'm like, oh, please build me a robot for this shoot, you know? Yeah.
Awesome.
And I'm lucky now. When I started out, I would have to commute to LA, and that was very difficult.
Yeah.
I live in Sacramento, and I'm going to be moving to LA part-time. So I'll be in both spots, but I was commuting there, and it was just what I had to do in the beginning.
Yeah.
And now, yeah,
and
now I
you're,
don't have
you're
to.
doing great art now. So
Thank you. Yeah.
that's all
Yeah.
that
So hopefully I can keep it up.
talking about emotions and stuff, like what's like more of a spiritual standpoint for like how you like work with like photos or videos, like music videos, like how do you kind of
Spiritually?
yeah, like how would you kind of explain that? Because I feel like I feel like I could kind of go off on that a bit, but like it doesn't have to be spiritual, just like a more emotional wisdom standpoint.
That's a very good question. I want to sit with that question like for a long time and think about it. Yeah, the thing about thinking about things spiritually, that word's been tripping me up a lot lately, because I'm like, what does that mean to me? You know, it's something, but I like that you're saying emotionally. Yeah. So that I think I could speak to. I mean, and tell me if this is what you're asking, but like,
It bleeds over, like
let's see. I mean, I would say like, emotionally, like when I'm working on any concept, a photo or a music video, first of all, with the concepts for photos are usually a lot easier because they're for me. I mean, sometimes it's also for the person I'm working with, but it's for me. It's something that I think is really funny or interesting. It's just like a cool idea. So that's like right away, that's a good sign. And then similarly, if it's a music video, if it's a track and I'm not like excited about the track, then I can't really come up with an idea that I would feel good about doing. And I just pass on it because I really think that someone else will do a better job. If someone likes that song, and hopefully someone will.
That's a good move though, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't used to do that because when I was starting out, I was trying to build my reel, and it was good practice to write concepts for everything I got.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So I do see the value in the hustle in the beginning, but now I don't have to do that as much, or actually at all. So yeah, that I do have to feel like I'm creating something I'm very excited about. And I think that translates on camera. I think it translates when I'm doing a photo. I feel like it translates pretty well across the photo, that there was some kind of energy there that was good and fun and whatever. And then in the video, you see that too. But the good thing is when you do that, like when I do it in a video, it's I think the artist is also they notice it too. Like that, Raul loves this idea, and it doesn't seem as narcissistic or as it sounds.
No, I get you.
Yeah, you have to feel passionate about it, and I think they can tell. Like I'm like a little kid. I'm like, this is so fun, and that's I'll just cancel that. It's so fun, and I'm so happy to be doing it. And I think that it, like I said, it translates onto the final product, and the artist sees it, and it gets them feeling excited too. And it just makes the whole thing better. Is that kind of what you were asking?
Yeah, that was actually perfect because I felt
Okay.
like, um, yeah. Speaking of, I guess I'll transition into another question to
Yeah.
because I feel like I definitely agree with the whole. You just have to be passionate about an idea. You have to just like, well, have you seen Mad Men?
Oh yeah, I love Mad Men.
Yeah, I love Mad Men. And when they talk about the guy who it was based on, it's like
Uh,
every time he had an idea, it's like he knew it was just perfect. Like,
yeah.
and like I feel the same way when I get an idea like that. I'm like, no, 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 it has to be done like this. It has to,
Yeah.
because like you have the vision and like I don't know, like are you typically director and cinematographer on projects? Like how do you combine your skill set too?
Yeah. Yeah. I typically am. Not not because like I think if I could, and I'm starting to get into this place where I can afford, but a cinematographer when before I couldn't, and it's not to say I couldn't really now, but because I think I have been a cinematographer for so long, a photographer slash cinematographer,
Yeah,
it's hard for me to find someone who can do the work that I can have already been training myself to do for years.
yeah,
And also like shooting on bright colors is a trick in its own, and there's not hardly of anyone else who does that. Um yeah, it makes it hard to find people I feel like I can trust, because I'm sure there's a bunch of people out there who could do it, but like knowing who they are and having the trust for them right off the bat. So I've still been sort of doing both, but it would be nice to kind of, when I'm directing a music video, to let someone else shoot it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Because it's just like a lot to juggle. Because I feel
it
like
is.
that. I mean, that's I've definitely done that before, and it's like, whoa. I feel like I could do better if I was doing like one or two things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
it's true.
how would you like? Do you have any tips on how to light bright colors? Since that's a trick in itself.
It depends on what you're trying to do. So when I light stuff, I generally am trying to light it to see everything. So it's sort of a weird thing because it's almost like commercial lighting. It's like light everything up, and then but then I don't want things to feel flat and dull. So it's this weird balance of finding the drama within, like lighting things up so you can see everything, see all the colors, have them pop, but then also we got to get drama in there. So we need to add, we need to have a little bit more of a rim light on certain things, or,
Um,
um,
like
yeah,
I see what you mean. Like you're kind of just balancing colors out with like the
mhm.
lighting. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And I've noticed that some colors make it very hard, to color grade later. So, if you have a lot of red in a room, that's going to spill on the skin so hard, and it's going to really make grading, like isolating the skin tones, very tricky. So I've been experimenting with gelling, like if I add a little more green onto a light and put that on the person, it might make their skin a little more green when I'm shooting it, but I can isolate their skin a little easier and then grade it separately. So there are little tricks like that I have to keep in mind for every single color that's dominating skin tones. And yeah, it's just, a matter of, if you have two colors that are just really close on the spectrum, you're maybe not going to be able to separate them. You're gonna have to grade them together. Um, it's like I'll hire people to grade my work, but I still feel like sometimes they have problems, and I've got to go into After Effects and fix it, because I've been doing it again just for so long.
Yeah, and it's good and sometimes like their help is worth it. Like it's like, yeah, they didn't quite get it, but at least they kind of helped me
Yeah. Oh yeah.
realize like what
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
gotta do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
like I feel like definitely having that vision though, like and like being able to just get there at the end is like the most important part
Yeah.
of like the whole shebang, what you do, you know?
It's so satisfying too. I mean, especially with these colors, because like you shoot something and then you can grade it and you can be like, oh, that looks really cool. But I think there's something so satisfying when you shoot something and then the colors are so like nuclear and vivid. And then
Yeah.
afterwards, and I see that they're very like, it's just in the color palette of what I've been doing for so long. And, you know, it really makes me feel good when people tell me your work is instantly recognizable. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, shower me with that. You know? That's so great. But yeah, it's very, very satisfying.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I definitely your work is definitely recognizable. I will say it's very eye catching, very eye catching.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you? I'm sorry that I just like non sequitur transition into questions. By the way.
No, that's perfect. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Keep it moving.
My mindset. Anyway.
Yeah.
Do you ever like use like effects lenses? Because I'm probably gonna edit like some photos and just like if it syncs up, you know.
Mhm.
But like do you ever use like effects lenses for your shoots? Because I feel like there's a few where I was like, is that effects lens or After Effects? Like what's
Yeah, no, I prefer things to be in camera. You know, that's why I paint everything. I like practical stuff, so that includes the filters. Yeah, so I love a good star filter. That's usually how I get those flares and that glittering. And then sometimes, I mean, okay, so I like star filters, and I like a black mister, which gives it kind of a haze. It kind of lowers the contrast. It makes it bloomier, you know, and that I think that gives it more of that sort of antiquated look that I like, where you're like it, you know, I love for things not to feel like very modern or too sharp. So I feel like now you don't know if it was shot 50 years ago or whatever. I mean, you know, it looks a little weathered, I guess you could say. But occasionally, yeah, we might have to do some of that in post, because when you add filters, of course, it makes it hard to separate colors easily, and when we're grading it. So I've had my colorists ask me to not use like that mister. They're like, could you just not, and then we could do that for you in post. And I'm like, okay, you know. But it does make it a lot trickier. So I kind of walk the line of what I can use. I don't like the post like After Effects glitters and star filters, though. I don't think they
look the same. Yeah,
they don't look the same. Yeah, you get different sort of qualities when it's in camera, because it's the way that light is catching things, versus in After Effects it's just looking for contrast, you know. And so that's not the same.
I definitely agree with that. I definitely can see that like in your work from like right off the bat, because
Thanks.
The production design, the wardrobe, it's like, well, speaking of film a little bit, Kubrick was a pretty good photographer. You know that?
I've never seen his photography specifically, but it doesn't surprise me.
You should check it out. I think you.
Yeah, I will.
You'll like it.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. Well, I thought it was like, I was like, wow, that's how he started too. It wasn't like he started as like a photojournalist and then became a filmmaker. But like, and like, you know, I definitely think the two like lend to each other, because you're pretty much like, it's like you're taking a bunch of photos and like they tell a story sequentially, right? But like a photo's like, it's got to tell the whole story right there, kind of like painting, and you got to think of composition pretty deliberately. And I definitely, you're very deliberate with your work, and that's like a very cherished thing, you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like,
thank you. Yeah,
and it's very good. Anyway, what gear would you recommend a graduate?
Oh, I guess graduating from college, from film school, or graduating from high school.
Photography, any high school. We can do all the steps, because I feel like whenever you want, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think I taught photography for 9 years, so the thing I would tell my students, or my students' parents would ask me, like, what kind of camera should I get my child, and I would basically recommend, like, I would kind of recommend starting with the lower level, like a Canon Rebel or Nikon, whatever is comparable. Usually a Canon Rebel is kind of a good starter camera for someone in high school or getting out of high school, just because unless it's a very serious career, and maybe even if they say it is, they don't know, you can change your mind. But you can put on different lenses. You can try out that right there. Being able to work with different lenses is so key. You can work with it manually. It's not going to break the bank as far as, I love film and I started on film, but film is not cheap. So while I would love to tell people to start out in film, I maybe would say that to people in college, like, or like, yeah, maybe after you're feeling comfortable with a Rebel, you've got to learn in manual mode. You've got to learn exposure, you learning your f-stops, your aperture, shutter speed. And then I think with the learning to work a camera, and then if you want to spend a little bit more money and you can afford a film camera, go for it. Just a basic SLR. But yeah, I mean, I would always tell people, just kind of get what you can afford. Don't overdo it. I don't think getting the latest, greatest thing is, personally, I don't think it's ever a really good idea. It's just like, it's always going to be more expensive, especially what we live in now. It's going to get cheaper. If you want the newest, like, Red camera or an Arri Alexa, give it 5 to 10 years, and then you can have a way better deal. I mean, it might have some miles on it, but still, yeah. And then let's see. There's a lot of specific things, I think, like when it comes to filters and things like that. I think it's always good to have NDs, if you can. NDs are great for if you're shooting outside, especially, so you can get a lower aperture. And if you're in film, like motion, a good tripod will almost be more or as much as the camera, depending on what you get. But a good tripod with a good fluid head, that's one of my pieces of gear I've had I ended up going into debt to get a really good O'Connor, and I paid it off a long time ago, but it was worth it. I still have it, and it's just been one of the best pieces of gear I've ever gotten. I think people skimp on the tripod, and I don't think you should,
I don't think you should either. I like a fluid head myself.
You notice, like, people put their cameras on really cheap, and especially when you're starting out, that's fine. I had really crappy tripods for a long time, but when I finally was able to afford one, I could. Now when I see a bad tripod, it kind of like, ooh,
because it's like gear. Jerky.
It's jerky. I mean, it's scary. Depending on what setup you have, it might not be able to handle the weight. They just break so easy. There's a lot of reasons why I think a good tripod's worth it. Let's see. That's definitely a hard thing to think about, just because, like I said, it's so like specific to the person. Past that, I mean,
like, I think that's good, like, general advice, and also, like, just the idea of, like, covering, like, get what you can afford, like, go out of your comfort zone. Like, I think those are, like, more like the tips, like, I was like looking, and I think even, like, just recommending solid cameras for different stages too, and like getting, like, kind of like, college, I'd start experimenting with film if like.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, I worked with film in college. I liked that. I even had they had the red room and shit.
Yeah. Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And what's great about film is you have to be so intentional, because it is so much money. So you really think, where digital, you could shoot. Film, you're going to have to be like, okay, that's right. This shot is costing me money. So, you want to, like, I mean, I don't know if this was true for you, but I mean, and it wasn't when I was starting out, because digital was very, like, new, but now it's like, if I shoot a peel apart Polaroid, I'm like, this shot is a $10 shot, like, I'm going to make sure it's good. So, and then, I think it's always good to have I keep 2 reflectors in the car, the pop-ups, just because
I
you
love
never
it.
know. Yeah.
They're so like
Um,
easy. You're just like, this is like lighting that you could just do by boom.
oh
Just
yeah, yeah, yeah,
put it somewhere. Come on.
yeah. And then, I think a good trick is like, let's say you can afford one really good light.
Uh-huh.
Um, and you like, I can afford one really good Airy 650 or something. Well, if you want to have more of those lights, buy some mirrors and just get a way to like mount them. And then you can bounce that one light into, it's not going to be as good as having two lights because you can't control the intensity, but you could put a mirror up behind the person behind the light and bounce it back onto their head. You could put a blanket over it to cut it down some. Like there's a lot of like tricks. I love all those little tricks
I
that I
love the
don't have to
tricks
do them
too.
anymore, but I still will. I'm like I can't afford, like if I have an HMI on set, like a good one, and we
Uh-huh.
can't afford two, I'm like get a reflector out.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
like that's a
I
really
think
light setup.
it's a good setup. But I do love tungsten lights. I love hot lights a lot. I know everyone's
Yeah.
going to LEDs, but the great thing is, people are getting rid of their tungsten lights, and so you can get a really good kit for very cheap. And I don't do it because they're cheap. I'm just glad they are. So I got a
Yeah.
really good Airy kit recently, like dirt cheap, and it was like brand new. And
Awesome.
they're beautiful. And they especially are good on skin tones, more so than an LED.
Yeah, I agree because I feel like, especially like I actually started with a Rebel, and
Yeah,
yeah,
good.
that was the intuition too. I felt that like I was like, this is probably a good camera.
Yeah,
And
it's the best starter camera anyone could get. I think,
yeah,
I shoot Nikon now. I have a lot of Nikon stuff. And I have an older Hasselblad digital, but the the Canon is just getting your like feet wet and like figuring out everything. And Canon makes great cameras and lenses, absolutely. But um, yeah, I think that you did the right thing. I'm proud of you,
yeah.
Tate.
But I was shooting. Well, I was kind of experimenting with it because I got an adapter with to put film lenses on, and then I shot LED
Oh yeah,
the film into the digital. I know that's
yeah,
like a lot of stuff, but like some of the mistakes I use because I think that's a big thing
sure, yeah.
that I like to do is I'll just take like the flaws and I'll be like, yes, that's the art right there, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think all that experimentation is really important.
Yeah,
We are living in a time right now where like even though I don't prefer LEDs, of course I have some and I have
yeah,
all kinds of lights, but we can get all this cool gear for so cheap right now.
yeah,
That really helps people shoot anything really.
yeah. I feel like it like you said, it catches like the tones better because like I feel like it doesn't like break it up all blocky, like
Right,
you think LED definitely looks, it just heightens the pixelization of the already digital photo if you're shooting on
right,
camera,
right. Yeah, yeah,
I don't know if that's fact or false, but it's how I feel about it from my
yeah.
experience. But
Yeah, I don't know either.
anyway, would you recommend a photography degree or getting an education if that's like something you're interested in?
I think if you can afford it, I think it's a great way to sort of speed up the learning process. Like I said, I went to school briefly and then spent the rest of my education on set. So maybe over 10 years before I felt like, and I still don't feel like comfortable all the time as being my own director of photography, because especially compared to someone who went to film school, they're almost always like have so much more knowledge that I really appreciate. So I think if you can afford it and film is what you want to be in, I say absolutely go for it. My mentor, he went to Brooks Institute, which is closed now, which was the probably most well-known photography school in the U.S. And he taught me a lot. So I got a lot of that education from him secondhand, which I'm grateful for. So yeah, I absolutely believe in learning from like if you have a trade and you can learn it at a school and you can afford to do it, I think it can only help. I personally, learning things off YouTube or just trying to
Yeah.
figure it out hasn't worked for me as well. I think I learned to juggle and to solve a Rubik's Cube on YouTube, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like everything else, you have to be hands-on.
Yeah.
Well, most of us, not everyone. Obviously, it doesn't apply to everybody, but I think most people.
Yeah. I feel like I learned more from experience, or definitely like getting more into just working with what you're interested in.
Hmm.
Can definitely like speed up the process, but I definitely agree where um going to school can start you can start critically thinking about like what you're doing a bit more,
Absolutely, yeah,
especially, depends where you're from also. Like I feel like some people like
yeah.
I was rural, so I didn't know many people until like film.
Oh,
Um
sure, yeah,
so, you go to film school and then all these people have different opinions on different directors and like who's good, who's bad, and then you just forge your own path, right?
yeah, yeah.
And I think it's just good to establish your own identity. I forget where I was going with that.
Well, I think you did a good job. I mean, that's the thing I also think I missed out in going to film school is the networking. Like if you went to USC, here in California, like that's such a big school known for turning out so many amazing filmmakers. And I think so when you're like, yeah, I have a degree in film and I went to USC, you're probably going to be more inclined to get more jobs. People are going to recognize that's a great film school. You probably learned all the stuff we need to have you as part of this. You're going to be able to get representation. Like there's a lot of things I think that really, really benefit from film school. At least here in California, I feel like,
Yeah,
that helps a lot with the networking. So
I definitely agree with that because just a short time I was in New York, I feel like I still talk to a lot of the people. I still work with a lot of people I went to school with, or
there you go.
I think, and also I feel like this would lead into another good question, which is like what you would recommend doing the same or different in
For
college.
myself,
Yeah, or whoever. Like what would you say should be some values for someone who like doesn't know like what to expect like going into something like that, like how do you think
mhm.
they should like critically analyze like, okay, I'm going to get a film degree, how do I make, or photography degree, what have you, how do I make the most of this, because it is
Yeah.
an abstract profession.
Oh yeah, it absolutely is. I guess I think that's just such a person to person, kind of thing. But I think it is a competitive, obviously. It's very competitive. I don't think, there's probably so few people who are going to be the next Steven Spielberg or whoever, you think is maybe a big director. But there are, I mean, media, television shows, things on YouTube, all that is not going away. There's so many streaming services. So I think there's a lot of room at the top for a lot of people involved
Yeah.
in this. So I would say it's a good career to get into, but I guess the best advice I could give is always have a backup or two backups, because
Yeah.
if you're like spending 3 years trying to learn to be a director and then you decide that you really don't like the pressure of being on set, um, and it could be backups within film. I mean, most people in film can do several things, so they can edit as well, or they can also produce, or
Yeah.
I really love art department. I feel like if I didn't love making my own, like directing my own things and being a director of photography, if I was like, I'm done with that, I would probably just become like a production designer and just
Yeah.
stick to that, which I have to do a lot of anyways for my own stuff. But yeah, I mean, but also sometimes I'm like, well, I wish I was also like a cook. So I could
Yeah.
just like walk away from all of it and be like, no, guys, no, I'm a
I'm
cook
a cook.
now. Yeah, I don't do that. I don't do that anymore. But I mean, a couple of years ago, I started doing stand up, which is unfortunately
Yeah.
that's not a career path. That's it's a really bad hobby. So like there's no way I could say I'm quitting, I'm going to do stand up, because that would mean I'm going to become homeless.
I definitely agree. I do stand up too, so I
You
understand.
do?
Yeah, I do. It's a lot of
So
fun.
you know.
Yeah,
Are
it's
you
like
still in New York?
no, I'm in Pennsylvania right now. I'm liking it
Okay,
'cause,
that's great. I love Pennsylvania.
yeah, I get to stretch out. But
Yeah.
I still visit, I was actually just in New York this weekend. And,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Do they, where you're at in Pennsylvania, do they say yens?
Yins,
Yeah.
some people.
Yeah.
There's,
Okay.
there's some people here who they talk real Southern, and I'm like, you're not from the South, dude. Like, what do you?
Yeah. Well, that's good. How long have you been doing stand up? Not to make this about you, but I do like asking.
No, I appreciate it. It's I honestly just started, but
Oh, amazing.
I started recording like just other I like it as a field because I feel like you really start to connect with certain people. It's like such a raw like
Yeah.
crowd,
Yeah. Yeah.
people, and also doing open mics. Like, whoa,
It's
it's
a
a
nightmare. I
little,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, because like anyone can go up and say whatever and like
Yeah. It's
sometimes
ridiculous.
and like I know a lot of open mics like encourage like, oh, please stay for everybody, like, and it's
Yeah.
like, I don't want to listen to everybody though.
Well, especially when you've heard them already from another open mic and you're like, I just can't sit through this anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially if they don't do new material. I don't think it's like good to constantly, I mean, it's good to work on your stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
but like give us a cycle. Like if you just did the same stuff last week, do something
Right.
new the next,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
and then you can cycle back to it the next week, after that.
It helps with when the people are hearing all the same things. But yeah, open mics I think are just that way everywhere. So
No, and like it's good to just embrace it. Like I feel like it's good we're talking about this because say like some kids like I kind of want to do an open mic, but like they're kind of stressful to go to because it's like all this weird energy, and it's like no, that's just kind of how they are.
it's how it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just that way. You meet all, like, that's the thing I noticed too, is in production, you get very motivated, hardworking people who kind of have not always maybe the exact path that they're looking to get into, but a pretty good idea of what they're in the field they want. We have a goal, but when you're at an open mic, it's just like the craziest mixed bag of people that you could ever imagine. And you're like, oh, okay, wow. Like this is like sometimes I wonder about what those people do for work. I'm like, I wonder how do they get by?
I feel the
Yeah,
same way.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a and glad like I'm glad that you're like acknowledged. Like, have you done touring with it?
I know. I haven't left Sacramento actually. I mean, I've been in like areas around Sacramento, but mostly here. And I've I've luckily have had a lot of good opportunities to not do as many open mics lately, and I've got onto like a stage I like and a room I like here, which is a comedy club, and it's like good because the audience is there for comedy, so I've gotten my best performances and whatnot there in that room, and so I kind of just tried. Now I'm at the point where, and I've been bad about this year, but I'm going to start working on going to open mics again to work on new material, just to
Yeah.
say it. I don't need people to laugh at it. I just need to get up on stage and see if I can remember how to deliver it and what I want to do with it.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
good to work on material. Do you like
Yeah.
write it beforehand and like
Yeah.
line word by word? Like I know some people.
Yeah, I used to almost recite it word for word, and sometimes that is pretty critical. Obviously, if you have a punchline, you've got to end it a certain way. But I've loosened up on having it be word by word, and just knowing where what the punchline is, what that word goes at the end. So don't mess that part up. And
Yeah.
then so I have an idea of how to tell the joke or the story, and I just kind of get there. But yeah, I've been so busy this year that I feel bad. I need to get back to it. And also my stuff is as it probably no surprise, it's pretty abstract and off
Yeah.
the wall stuff. So I was doing a set as a robot, as one of the Daft Punk robots for like 6 months. So that was really fun.
I like shit like that, like Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, he's the one that I sort of like embody when I'm out there.
Yeah, I feel you, because I feel like I've been experimenting with just telling the truth and just doing like a full-on bit.
Yeah.
I feel like I really like when there's like a little bit of a performance art edge to it, you know.
Me too. Yeah.
I
But
mean,
at open mics, they hate that. There's
I know
nothing
they
worse than that.
they do.
There's nothing worse. It's kind of hit and miss. I was doing this thing with the radio before, and I think people would either be shocked that I attempted it or be highly entertained because it was just something different. And this like 20 comics and one guy did something crazy. They're like, okay, yeah, that was, I don't know if it was funny, but it was interesting, So yeah,
As
so
long as it, you know,
as long as it's
captures
interesting. Yeah. And I'm passionate about it. Exactly.
yeah.
So
Makes
all
you
boils
feel
down to
new.
that. It does. It does.
Oh, I think I got a lot of good questions, to be honest. And I feel like, let me see where we are. I actually don't know where we are on the time. I didn't time this. Oh, we're at like 49 minutes. So I feel like and I feel like we touched a lot of ground. Don't you feel like
We
it?
can always do another one, Tate.
Okay,
So
cool.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Do you have a final question?
Yes. Do you like, what would you say? I do have a final question. Thank you for asking. Because what would you say is like when you do a photo, right?
Yeah.
Like, how are you breaking it down in your brain, like step by step, like as like a director? Because like you got to find a way to compartmentalize and like not just that, but like have these things kind of coexist and kind of like work with each other to create a whole shebang. Anytime I said that.
I mean, that's the producer part of it, right? So, and when I'm doing a photo, a lot of times they're passion projects, they're self-financed. So I'm definitely like, so starting with the concept, whatever that is, I sketch it out. I like to draw, so I could sketch it out. And then if sometimes I'll have someone in mind right away. But what's great about the sketch is I color it in, so I have an idea. I'm like, these are the colors. This is the color scheme, and I could send that drawing, that sketch, whatever it is, to the model, and that's usually enough for them to get excited to do it and agree to do it. Yeah, and then I could send it to and I rarely have stylists for my photo shoots, but sometimes I have a person that if she's got time, she'll help me figure it out and we work on it. But I can send it also to the makeup artist and the hairstylist. And but that sketch is usually not detailed enough for them to know. So I'll have to make mood boards, I'll have to find references of, different hairs. And once we have the model, she may not have blonde hair or black hair. And do we get a wig? So it all comes from that initial sketch, I think. And then it's just like almost like a brainstorm cloud. Everything kind of bubbles out from there. Since I have my space, the studio, I have to think about how am I going to build this set? What's the background? What's whatever. Then I have to think about how much money am I willing to spend on this? Luckily, having a space, I have a lot of props. I have color backdrops. I have fabric. I have a lot of things that I can pull from. As long as I don't feel like I've overused it in that, like, well, that was such a featured prop, then I'm okay to like paint it again and use it again. So, then I have to think of the expense of painting. If I have to put up a wall or more than one wall, I got to think about that. So, I guess when I'm compartmentalizing it, it's like, there's my job, which is, I guess it becomes the art, the production design, the art part of it, because I can't afford on a passion project to hire someone to do that. It doesn't make sense for me anyways. So I think of that stuff myself. I I'm able to give the hair and makeup to professionals. I would never attempt to do that on my own. And then, so yeah, I'm thinking about the money. And then, so that's the pre-production. And then when it comes time to do it, usually my stuff is pretty, it's pretty like dramatic. I either like very dramatic or very, very like no emotion, that kind of thing, which I almost like that as a, not like making fun of what modeling is, but
Yeah.
like emphasizing it, you know, like a character of it. Like you're a model, you're a mannequin, and that's what you are. And so yeah, I kind of go back and forth on that, and it becomes like you said about the story of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, so like one of the first ones I did was a woman stealing a flamingo from someone's yard, and so that, but getting caught doing it, and so we just did this, the flamingo in her arms,
Yeah.
and like a wild like accusation, like you know, just like very big. Kubrick, I always say think, or Kubrick or even Hitchcock, you know, think of those like really over the top sort of emotional dramatic
Do
films,
you
and
like
that's what you're
campy
in.
stuff?
I yeah, I think it's always campy, even though that's a weird word to say. And I see other campy things, and I don't usually particularly like it, but I think that is what it is. It is campy.
Yeah, I love campy stuff, to be honest. I think that's like
Yeah.
my niche, to be honest. But I definitely like with the big reactions that have like it almost reminds, since you said Hitchcock, it actually kind of reminds me of like there's a poster for the birds where it's like I forget who the main girl is, but she's like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
oh, and with the mouth open, you did it perfect.
no, that's oh god, I know her name. Anyways, yes, you're absolutely, I know exactly what you're talking about. And yeah, that's the one I think of the most too. And I think that's one that's very recognizable for people when you're talking about like have that big look of fear. So that would be the directing part. But also I think it's important to consider the what are the strengths of your model. Like if she's not, if it's going to be out of her element or something she's never done, I'd say try it, but also look for what's her strength. So I just shot with this girl. I was testing with her. She hasn't done a lot of modeling, but I knew she had a really good photogenic face, because I had done a commercial shoot with her. And I was like, I think you could be good in fashion as well, or in one of my concepts anyway. And she was having a hard time with like, she was trying to do model looks, but she'd never done. But I told her, dude, can you just do some where you're being playful like you were when we were shooting? And suddenly it was like, that was her strength. Suddenly the picture started looking amazing. And I was like, see, that's what you're really good at. You probably don't know it, but she, you know, you have a really good like playfulness about you, and that translates well on camera. And so I think it's important to know what the strength of the person you're working with. I think that's true for actors, you know, and probably even crew. You know, what are their strengths? What can they do? If you ask them to do something outside their box, that's okay. But definitely play to their strengths when you can. So
I definitely agree with that, because I definitely, and especially like working on an independent project, it's good to like hear.
yeah, yeah. And that goes for you as well. You know, we have to think about that as for ourselves, right? Like what are our strengths? But yeah, man, this is a really fun interview. I thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a great time.
You see, that was my son.
Hi.
Yeah.